Hey guys, Tom here from synthhacker.com, and in this video we're going to be looking at making from scratch this Potter Robinson style synth pop lead. Really nice sound, and I wasn't trying to completely copy the exact sound from the track. I just wanted to kind of create something similar, massive. I'm not even really sure what he used to create the sound, but yeah, it's just like a similar kind of like sparkling like synth pop lead, really bright, really cuts through a mix, and it's just really nice sound, and it's just a cool sound to be able to create. And I mean, you could use the sound for quite a lot of different genres as well. But yeah, we are going to be making it completely from scratch. So let's initialize the preset here. And I'll just quickly mention before we actually dive into creating the preset that lead is actually included in my Massive preset pack, which contains over 500 presets for Massive, as well as an hour-and-a-half video training course for Massive as well. So if you want to check that out, head over to synthhacker.com or click the link in the description below, and it'll take you to the page with like more details and audio demos and stuff like that. But definitely worth checking that out, and thanks a lot in advance if you decide to purchase that as well. It really helps support me. So yeah, without further ado, let's begin making the sound. The first thing we're going to do is just make sure that the sound is monophonic, and we're going to turn the glide down a little bit. It's not really a lead that we want to glide from note to note. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but I mean, like, I'm just kind of basing it off the lead that I heard in the track itself, and it doesn't really have any portamento or like glide between notes. So the wavetable we're going to use is this rough math 2 wavetable. We're only going to use one oscillator for this sound, and the wavetable position that I used was around here. Make sure that your wavetable is set to around here because it drastically changes the sound dependent on the position the waveform that you're using from the wavetable. And then I just turn down the intensity a little bit as well. Make sure that the oscillator 1 is being routed through both filter 1 and 2. I'm going to get to this in a second, but essentially what we're going to do is route the majority of the sound through a low pass filter with like kind of like a pluck envelope on it, but then we're going to bring the mix down so we're hearing a mixture of the direct rough sound from the oscillator and also the sound from the filter as well. So the next thing we're going to do is just set up the noise oscillator. There's actually no modulation in the sound whatsoever, and we're going to route this through filter 2 just using the bright noise noise source, and then we're just going to give the amplitude of this noise oscillator a really sharp decaying envelope. So this is the sound we've got so far. So nothing special at the minute, we've still got quite a lot to do. The next thing we're going to do is just use I can't remember if it was low pass 4 pole filter or low pass 2. I think it was low pass 2 I used. It won't make too much difference, but if you use low pass 4, it's going to cut out a lot more of the higher harmonics, so it's completely up to you really. And then we're going to set up both envelope 3 and 4. Before setting up the filter envelope, we're just going to set up the amplitude envelope for the sound, which by default, as you can see, is envelope 4. We're going to give the sound quite a bit of release. We're going to bring the sustain right down almost to a minimum, and then we're going to give a little bit more decay, as you can see there. And then we're going to set up a very similar envelope for the cutoff. The filter envelope as well. Bring the sustain right down, and then we're going to drag and drop this onto the cutoff, and you'll hear the effect that this has now. So we're getting there pretty close. Still got a few more things left to do. As I mentioned earlier, what we're going to do is use kind of like almost kind of have like a filter dry wet, and the way we're going to do this is we're going to set the filter to so it doesn't have any filter at all, but then we're going to turn the amplitude right up. And now as I bring this mix amount down, what you'll notice is that you'll hear more of the direct sound from the oscillator, and also the noise from the noise oscillator as well, because this is just being routed straight through filter 2. So I'm just going to demonstrate that for you. So that's a really nice effect that has. So when you bring down this mix amount now, you'll hear more and more of the direct sound mixed with the filter, which is really where it gets kind of like a lot of the sparkle from the sound in like the high end. The next thing we are going to do, I'm just going to turn up the amplitude of the noise a little bit because it wasn't really that clear. But the next thing we're going to do is dive into the effects section, and for this we're just going to use a normal reverb. Personally, I would probably use an external reverb plugin, but for the purpose of this tutorial we're just going to use Massive's built-in one. We're going to have quite a big size, just over halfway, and because this is a lead sound, we don't want it to be drenched too much in reverb because we want it to be in like the forefront of the mix, so we're just going to keep the dry wet pretty low. And then the next thing we're going to do is dive into the EQ section, and what I did on this sound was just brought down the low shelf a little bit. Usually you don't want too much low end on a lead sound because you're probably most likely in the mix going to have like some bass element or something like that underneath it. So using EQ within a synth is just a really great way to save yourself a headache later on. I really like EQing sounds within the synth themselves because it just saves you like a lot of work down the line, instead of just being like, oh, I'll EQ it later, you know. So definitely take some of the low end out with this low shelf EQ setting, and then what we're going to do is significantly boost the high end of the sound as well. Because this is a lead sound, it is quite harsh sounding. We do kind of want it to cut straight through the mix. It's like the main element like within the mix, so boosting the high end is a really good way to kind of emphasize that high end and make it cut through the mix a little bit more. And there we have it. That's pretty much the finished sound. Hopefully you got a lot of use out of this tutorial. You could also vary the sound a little bit by messing around with the envelope decay, decreasing it or increasing it. I'll just demonstrate that. The other thing that I'd recommend playing around with is this mix amount, so decide whether you kind of want to hear more of the filtered sound or more of the direct sound. You could even actually automate this parameter as well for some like interesting results. But hopefully, yeah, you picked up a trick or two. I really like doing this kind of filter thing on some lead sounds. You know, just having like a mixture of the direct and the filter sound. It's a really great way to kind of add a bit more like interesting harmonics to your lead sound. And yeah, hopefully you got some use out of this tutorial. If you did, feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I've got tons and tons more free video content coming out for you guys for both Massive and other synths as well. And yeah, if you haven't already, go ahead and check out my website over at synthhacker.com, or click the link in the description below. As I mentioned at the beginning, I have a 500 preset mega pack which you can go check out over at my website. Really reasonable price, some really great presets. You know, I really slaved over that pack to like create the best sounds that I possibly could, and yeah, it's just basically a collection of my best sounds that I've created for Massive, and I think you guys will really get a lot of use out of that. So thanks in advance if you decide to purchase that. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.